Hello, my name is Nick Paul. I'm the owner-operator of Banner Packing in Los Angeles. Does the artwork have a frame on it? If it's framed, is it framed with plexiglass or with glass? What is the size of the painting? And finally, what's the value of the painting? These are all things that will determine how the piece needs to be packed and what's the proper packing methodology for that particular piece.
When creating your artwork, always think ahead on how this artwork will be delivered, shipped to your client or gallery. This is critical when delivering to the end user, private citizen, as opposed to a gallery. Will they have the tools and expertise to properly unpack the art? With relatively expensive domestic shipments, consider using white glove service with inside delivery as opposed to curbside or to the door. Unpacking placement and or installation, and the removal of all packing and crating materials. As an alternative, consider coordinating the delivery date of your art with your shipper and your client's chosen installation company. What steps are you and the shipper taking to protect your artwork?
A 1x4 heat-treated pine, okay? We build a frame. We cover the frame with heavy-duty double-wall cardboard, and the piece goes inside. Now, inside of here, of course, on the walls of the interior walls of the cardboard is either foam or polystyrene sheets. It's economical. It affords a certain amount of protection. Because the cardboard is double wall and 270-pound test strength, it's not as easy to penetrate. For a $500 piece, a $70 investment in a demi-crate is probably a practical, low-cost alternative for you. We build a box out of that same cardboard, and then we line it with either the foam or the polystyrene, okay? And then, instead of a single frame of the 1x4, we build a frame, a skeleton, like an exoskeleton around the box that we've built for the piece. This is heavier, it affords more protection, and because it's heavier, it's going to be more expensive to build, it's going to be a little more expensive to ship. But, again, we're talking the difference between $500 and $5,000, okay?
Very important for artwork without glass or plexiglass. Shipping companies should wrap the artwork in acid-free paper or tissue. The shipping company can then use the bubble wrap. Never put bubble wrap directly on your artwork. In hotter climates, the bubble wrap may stick to the artwork.
The box is built out of plywood. And this is the top of the line. Now this is the piece that you want to use for anything that is extremely delicate, extremely fragile, and extremely expensive. Okay, and when you have those three qualifiers, for instance, glass, I will only ship glass in an all-wood crate. Okay, and I would only use, now we've only got 1-inch foam in this, but in glass I would use a polystyrene base all the way around on all facets with foam on top of that. In extreme cases where you have a very expensive piece of art, or you have maybe a sculpture that is made of a material that's very heavy, like a marble or limestone or stone or even wood, then you want to go to an all-wood crate that is made entirely out of 1x4 pine as opposed to any materials like plywood. You want the additional strength because the idea of the packing is not only to protect the art inside, but to protect the crate itself on the outside to keep it from being easily compromised from the outside. And the heavier the weight, the more substantial, of course, that the crate needs to be.
Things to consider. Glass is a heavier material, fragile, greater risk of damage when shipping. Plexiglass is lightweight, durable, less risk of damage when shipping. If using glass, it is recommended to put a special film on the glass. If the glass breaks, this will protect your artwork from being punctured by the glass during shipping. If your artwork can be shipped unstretched, then perhaps you can stretch your canvas when it arrives at its location. This will save you a lot of money when shipping your artwork. It is more expensive to ship to a residence than a commercial property. For larger single-item shipments, common carriers or freight forwarders may be less expensive than the major shipping companies. Dedicated truck. The shipping company packs the item properly at their facility and then loads the shipment onto a truck. The necessary arrangements are then made for the unload delivery of the shipment to its final destination. At all times, you want to lessen the amount of handling that takes place when shipping your artwork.
There is an item called dimensional weight. In the United States, as long as you're shipping domestically, dimensional weight is determined by taking the width of the crate, the length of the crate, and the depth of the crate, multiplying those three numbers together, and then dividing by 250. The same process applies for international shipping. You take the height, the width, and the length, you multiply the three numbers together, and you divide by 166. And that's the international dim weight. And that's why it's often very expensive, or much more so, to ship overseas than it is to ship domestically.
This is an example. Size of painting before packaging or crating, width 54 inches, length 66 inches, height 1.5 inches. Size of painting after crating in an all-wood crate, width 63 inches, length 75 inches, height 11 inches. Domestic dimensional weight would be 208 pounds, and the international dimensional weight would be 313 pounds.
If the piece is small, if it's less than 12 inches in any direction, it can fit easily in a small box. It doesn't have a high value and it weighs less than 25 pounds. The best way to ship that, or the most economical way to ship that, is to use the U.S. Postal Service. Your shipper of choice can, of course, help you with that determination. When you're dealing with a shipper and you're trying to deal with something that you need to ship overseas, please keep in mind that the time zone differences are a huge battle for your shipper as far as getting accurate quotes for you. Los Angeles to San Francisco, you can usually get a quote within 2 hours, but shipping overseas is generally 24 to 48 hours before you can get an accurate number. Another thing to consider is when you're shipping to like a place to the Middle East, they have a different weekday than we do. They run Sunday through Thursday with their weekends on Friday and Saturday. You're not going to be able to get anything into the country on Friday or Saturday, so that's important for you to understand the different cultures that you're shipping to and from. When you are dealing with overseas shipping, make sure you're getting a quote that includes customs clearance. On the other hand, there are other customs duties, taxes, tariffs, and fees that are going to be applied by the country to the piece coming in. If you're shipping overseas, make sure that your shipper is using only export compliant material. That's pine or board, that's heat treated to level 3 minimum, that's HT3. Also make sure that they are inspected on a monthly basis and have the export stamp that they're going to be able to apply to all export packages. Include whether it be a crate or a cardboard carton, it still has to be stamped. Okay, and make sure your crater or your packer is certified and inspected to be able to do export shipping. When you're shipping to an overseas country, when you're exporting anything, you have to be aware of what export documents are required for that particular country, and it will vary from country to country. For instance, if you're shipping to Canada, the only thing that's required is a commercial invoice. If you're shipping to any other country, you're always going to have a commercial invoice, and you're going to have a shipper's letter of instructions. And then after that, you get into the idiosyncrasies of the particular country. For instance, if you're shipping to the Middle East, if you're shipping to China, if you're shipping to some countries in Scandinavia or Brazil, then you need a certificate of origin. And this is a document that needs to be notarized and stamped by the Chamber of Commerce of the city where the shipment is originating from. If you're dealing with Indonesia and you're shipping to something to Jakarta, then you need a certificate from the Department of Agriculture that says that the product that you're shipping, whether it be art, furniture, regardless, is free of seeds and live vegetation. There's a difference between insurance value and customs value. Customs value is the value that you put on a product so that the person who is receiving it in the country you're shipping it to, that's the value that's going to be used to determine what the taxes, tariffs, customs, duties, and fees are. Okay? It has to be reasonable. It has to be logical. Insurance value is the value you're insuring the piece for in case of damage or loss. Okay? The insurance people never see the customs declaration. The customs people never see the insurance declaration. Whenever possible, always take a picture, have a picture of your artwork before it's created, and in many cases, especially if it's going overseas or it's a particularly elaborate piece of art, ask your crater or your packer to make sure he takes at least one picture of the piece inside the crate before it's closed, so that this will become invaluable later on, especially if it's a valuable piece, because the insurance company, if it gets damaged, the insurance company is going to want to see how this was packed in the first place to make sure it was properly safeguarded against the usual kinds of damages. In the instance if you do get a call from a client that they've received damaged goods, first of all, don't throw away the packing or the crating. Don't take it out of the crate if it's at all possible. Sometimes they have to before they discover the damage, but ask them to please put it right back in. Don't throw anything away, and take pictures and send them to you as soon as possible. The easiest way to file a claim successfully is to get all this to your insurance company in the quickest possible time frame. It's delays that make insurance companies crazy and cause them to question whether or not there's a valid claim in process. Also, it's not a bad idea to ask them what insurance company they're insured with. Are they self-insured? Are they charging you for insurance but not paying insurance themselves? Especially on very valuable pieces, your shipping company should be able to get you a certificate of insurance if you require one. When you're dealing with domestic issues, domestic shipments, there are cases. Ask your client if they require a certificate of insurance from their landlord, if they live in a high-rise or they live in a building that often requires that from the shipper. Not a bad idea. Find out if there's any restrictions on deliveries. Are there any special requirements that the building requires as far as putting items on the floor to protect the flooring, padding the elevators before anything goes up? It may sound like, well, you're only shipping a small piece of art and it's in a cardboard carton, but you'd be surprised what shippers run into when they try and make a delivery in some of the buildings that require this before a delivery can be made. Better to ask in advance and know than find out afterwards. I have a tenet that I follow in my business. The only stupid question is the question that doesn't get asked.